Joining us in the Sandbox today, we are turning the spotlight onto innovation and the Prolifics Innovation Center with Chris Brown and Sri Govindra. Just ahead. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Prolifics Innovation Sandbox. I'm your host, Greg Hodgkinson. If you're new to our show, so today is actually the season finale of our first series. We've been running every Thursday over the last 6 weeks, and although today wraps up season 1, season 2 is already in the planning. Each week, we're hosting different technology experts who are leaders in their fields, and they'll share their passion and what they see being the future of hot technologies like big data, process mining, blockchain, DevOps, and much more. As always, we want to hear your voice. So submit your questions at any time during the show in the live chats, which is either just to the right or below the video feed. And don't forget to stick around until the end for our Q&A. A special request today, if you have any ideas for topics that you'd like us to discuss in season 2, feel free to put those in the Q&A chat, live chat box as well. So today we have 2 very special guests joining us in the Sandbox, Chris Brown, who heads up our information management practice, and Sri Govindra, who heads up managed services for us in the UK. So Chris and Sri, welcome to the Innovation Sandbox.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
So now, Chris, you're actually doing me a favor and jumping into the host seat for this first bit because we're turning the spotlight on the Innovation Center, and that means I get to play guest for a while.
Thank you, Greg, and welcome everybody to the Innovation Center. And so, Greg, the first thing I want to ask you really is just in 30 seconds to a minute, what is the Innovation Center and why did you create it?
So the Innovation Center is really, it's where we've come to. So let's talk about the question of innovation. So innovation for us implies something that's new. So building something new. And it's either a new solution to a new problem or a new solution to an old existing problem. And one thing we can say for sure is that 2020 is the year that's thrown up a whole lot of new problems for pretty much everyone. And what we think is that those companies that have an innovative mindset are always going to be better placed to deal with those problems. And those companies that aren't are going to struggle. So innovation is really it's like a muscle. And if you don't use it, then it's not going to be as strong. So our innovation center, I almost like to think of it as our gym for working out our innovation muscles. And I've got to say that, so we started things up in January 2019. So we had a year in the innovation gym working on our innovation muscles before COVID hit. But that's meant that we're really in a good place to be able to produce these innovative solutions for industries, organizations out there. And it's really formed this focal point for us to produce innovation as a company.
That's excellent. Thank you, Greg. So I did initially, when I first heard about the Innovation Center, thought that, okay, is this just going to be a guy writing code in the corner, and as long as you feed him pizza or her, then they're going to continue writing code, and maybe or maybe not we'll be able to give it to customers. I don't think that's the case, but that's the initial vision. So tell me about the life cycle, how you decide on what you're going to innovate on, who's part of that program.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, so innovation, so nothing wrong with pizza, right? Pizza produces great results. But I would say that we found very much that innovative is best done as a team sport. So, your notion of just, locking someone in a room and getting them to produce things, I'll say 2 different things. So firstly, I want to make 2 statements. So we know that necessity is the mother of invention, but I'd like to say that curiosity is the father of invention. And you need to pair those 2 up to kind of have both those forces at play. So you want to make sure that you've got the curiosity that's driving your need to innovate, as well as the focus on necessity And that's key. And the reason I want to just call that out is if you just keep on building things that you think might be cool, there's nothing wrong with that. But we very much need to make sure that we're building things that are based on some sort of need, some sort of necessity. And that's where it's not just the developers that we lock in a room. We actually bring in leaders from across our organization that are keenly attuned, because they work out there with organizations out in the field, and they're really kind of our feelers on what the real necessity is that we're building innovations for. So pairing up those two things, again, curiosity is the father, necessity is the mother. You bring the family together in the innovation center, and you make sure that you're building things that are really great technical solutions. You're making the best use of technology, but you're also keenly focused on making sure that you're meeting a real need out there that organizations are facing.
That's excellent. Thank you, Greg. So I'm going to take this a little bit further on now. So once you've built something within the Innovation Center, and I think this is where I'd like some input from Sri as well. So you've got a request from the customer, or you're working with one of our software partners. We've worked with some key companies like IBM, Talent, as an example. But once you decide on what to build and how to build it, how does it then get into a managed services environment? So I'll start with Sri on that, if you could chime in, and then Greg, feel free to interrupt and add additional commentary to that.
Sure, Chris. So as Greg was saying, if the idea doesn't come from solving a real world problem or an issue, then there's very little value that you can put to it at the end of the cycle. So from a managed service perspective, the number one thing that I'm looking to do for my customers is take away the pain of keeping things running, their business flowing. And that's what they trust us to do. They trust us to keep the lights on, keep things running, and not have to deal with plugging holes while they're trying to innovate and do other things. So from my perspective, the projects that I've worked with Greg on in Innovation Center have all come from this perspective. So the examples that I can immediately think of are, one of the banking customers that we have, we wanted to work with them to get them ready for the next generation of migrations that they're going to be doing. They're behind the cycle by a couple of years, and different vendors have gone on to the next level of their product life cycles, and everything is now cloud-based. But then the customers are not necessarily all in the right place to take on and go into containerized cloud type of environments. So what I was trying to do as part of our managed service is to see how we can give them a taste of things that would look like in the cloud. And we did that through the Innovation Center by building open source monitoring tools, giving them a look and feel of how they would be managing these environments if it was in the cloud. And we knew they were going to get there a year down the line, a couple of years down the line, but it's something that was going to happen. And this gave them a view of what they would be doing and how they can get there.
Yeah, and actually, so it's been a great partnership with Sri and the team. So as we said, when you're innovating, you want to make sure you're innovating. Everyone likes to IT folks like to create fundamentally. And that's why I think that curiosity is what's driving us. But it's been great using Sri and the team to really give us some great use cases to explore that are really going to deliver value. And it's an incredibly useful exercise. So I think that's allowed us to explore areas like open source monitoring solutions. There's also, the work we're doing now with digital workers, Sri, where we're building that for totally, a different set of customer, business organization focused needs. But we're now seeing the huge benefits you can get from digital workers, chat bots in anyone else's language. And now we're saying, well, actually, we can make use of those things in our managed services work that we're doing.
Absolutely.
So it's been really useful.
The adage that immediately sprung to mind while we were thinking about this is, the concept of carpenters versus gardeners, right? I mean, carpenters are people who take measurements, build something to spec, and that's what they do. But then gardeners have to think about, okay, this summer something is working or not working, or something's changed, and I've got to deal with whatever's on the ground. So my perspective is from that gardener's perspective, because I'm managing production environments for customers, and I have to deal with fires that come up, and I have to deal with it from that point of view. While innovation for the sake of it is brilliant and I can think about it, I have to be a lot more practical when I come to you, Greg, to ask about solutions, because I'm thinking of which customer, what problem, how am I going to solve it. And then when I see bots, it gives me ideas. It gives me things about, okay, can I use this to take care of my overnight issues? Can I use this to free up some time for my guys so they can do other more interesting things? So absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess for our audience out there, so the thing we want to leave with them is, how do you really create that? As I said, I like to use this notion of a innovation gym. So somewhere that the team comes together and you keep practicing those innovation muscles, because that's going to make your whole organization, your whole IT organization, that much better placed to be able to deal with change and really build the innovations that matter when needed. And Sri, you and the team have been, even before we formalized the Innovation Center, you've had this focus on continually improving things within the team. And again, across Prolifics, we've always been very innovative as a company. But what we found with the way we've organized things is just bringing everything together, and this focal point has allowed us to much better join the dots between different parts of the organization, different practices, different geographies, and really increase the amount of really good innovation that's coming out of the company. So another example of that is, Chris, the work that we've been doing with you and your team, focused on another partner of ours, is, for one of the organizations that we're working with, is meeting a real need that they have. And we've kind of been jointly exploring and building out some solutions there.
Absolutely. And typically what we are trying to do is make sure we arm consultants with more than just their own expertise. And this is a nice, unique situation where we have a software partner that has a framework that we can build extensions on. And so as part of the Innovation Center, we're looking
at— This is data lineage, right?
This is a data lineage extension, yes. So we can bridge third-party software into a governance catalog that may not currently have a bridge. And so that almost brings us an extra set of ammunition above and beyond just the consultant's experience. The consultant can then bring that to the table as an asset to deploy. And we're partnering with a software vendor on that, deploying to a customer. And it's bringing everybody together, and it's where innovation works really well, because the customer then becomes your de facto product manager, which, who's better at doing that than the customer?
Yeah. And actually, so you call out the fact that it's being driven by consultants, our consultants, and really as an organization, and what I guess for our audience, to make this relevant, is the problem is you've got the day job, right? You got to keep the lights on, and you really need to make sure that you're supporting the current set of systems. You're building the new set of features. But innovation almost needs a different mindset, because you kind of need to break out of the day job and spend a little bit of time thinking about the future. So it's not just your immediate needs, it's those future needs. But you can't just do that. I mean, you've got two options. I guess you can either have the ivory tower team that's somewhere setting up a skunkworks project, and they're looking to the future and they sort of feed everybody else innovation. But that's exactly not the model that we've taken. We've taken the model which said, actually, our consultants, the guys in the field, they're the people that are best placed to understand those necessities. And we want to very much make sure that they're involved in all of our innovation efforts. So it's a balancing act, because they can't do, they need to do both. And it is a balancing act, but we've really spent a lot of time thinking about how we can structure things to achieve that balancing act.
Yeah, and then the other thing that
ties into another thing.
Sorry,
no, I was actually going to engage you on this, because I think some of the innovation topics that we are working on currently was originated from your team and some continuous improvement you did as part of a signed project. So tell us about that a little bit, and how that worked out, and then brought the Innovation Center in as a request.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just going to add to what Greg was saying, that the ideas and the way that the continuous improvement innovation came about was because at times we have managed service platforms where things are quite steady, and then at times it's very intense. But the nature of the business is that there's bursts of activity and then there's periods of really quiet time. So what Prolifics and the managed service business that I manage, what we were thinking is that, what can we do to add more value and stay more relevant and connected with the customers? So that was the idea behind the continuous improvement log. And the first of the ideas came from our consultants who were working with the customer on site. And these were guys who were saying, look, I see that these are areas where we could add value. These are things that could be done. These are things that the customer themselves want to do. It's just that it's on the backlog. It's on the backlog for the last 6 months. There's technical debt, or there's interesting things that we could do with the data here, different ideas. And to go and get that funded separately as a project would require a whole amount of selling, estimating, doing a lot of paperwork. All this would deter somebody from even entertaining the thought of going down that road. But what I was able to do as part of the managed service was to track it, report it as part of BAU reporting, get people to think about it and talk about it without having to think about how much it would cost and whether we needed to have a separate decision made somewhere else. So that got the little projects greenlit and done faster. On the back of that, when Greg formed the Innovation Center, it was just perfect platform for me to come and talk to him about all the different ideas that other projects and other customers and other parts of our organization are working on that I could take and use and I could put in front of my customers. And whatever I was working on, he was able to take on and say, hey, this is brilliant. This can work for this other customer. We should put it in and make it available so others can then incrementally build on top of it. So it was a perfect match when that initiative was launched, and it really has worked out brilliantly for us.
That's excellent. And so, Greg, please tell me about. I've heard about the Innovation Feeder program, and I think it's possibly born out of some of the work that you've done with Sri. So could you tell us how that works and how people can contribute to that?
Yep. And I don't want to quickly say that, really the approach we've taken with the Innovation Center, it wasn't just a Greg project. This was the Prolifics executive team that made a conscious decision, sort of 2018, that we really needed to bake innovation into the core of our DNA as a company. So this continuous innovation and really make it the center of everything that we do at Prolifics. So that's why we spend so much time, organizing and fine-tuning the way we innovate. And the feeder program came out of that, because what we realized was the Innovation Center was great at taking ideas, and we can maybe talk about that life cycle if we get time, but we're taking those ideas and then building solutions from good ideas and doing it in a repeatable way where we prioritize the right ideas and we make sure that we get a good result at the end of it. But what we realized was there was a certain amount of overhead and cost in introducing things into the Innovation Center. Now, I don't mean sort of monetary cost. I mean, we have additional eyes on those ideas as they're moving through the process. There's additional kind of focus on turning it into something and really honing it for a specific customer need. And sometimes you just need to explore. So sometimes there's new technologies, and you're not really sure how you want to turn it into a solution yet. You just want to explore. And I think innovation needs that highly structured, let's take an idea and turn it into a solution. But it also needs that, well, let's just explore. Let's just figure out this technology. Let's kick the tires. Let's throw some ideas around. And that's where the feeder program came from. So we kind of built that on as an addition to the Innovation Center to make sure that we were also had this kind of breeding ground, that kind of incubation area where we could get good ideas built that could then transfer into the Innovation Center and then be built out into solutions.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add here, Chris, it's also a fact that for a business like mine, where we do a lot of run-of-the-mill day-to-day BAU activities, the teams also have that thirst for wanting to do something exciting. And these are the kind of projects that the guys have really put their hand up to say, I want to go off and try this because, I've heard about this thing. I've always wanted to go tinker with it. And, they've out of their own ideas, they've gone off and downloaded open source software to try out a different type of monitoring solution, build some scripts on Golang, which they hadn't used before. These are the kind of things that, keeps them excited and wanting to contribute as well. And when it then turns into something that we can actually deliver to a customer, there's a lot of, payoff for the consultant who's done the work, for us as a provider. And then the customer at the end of the day is happy that, we've contributed something out of absolutely nothing. Out of nowhere, it's manifested itself, and it's a great win.
And going back to kind of 2018, and sorry, Chris, I was going to say that executive decision we took as an organization to focus on innovation and really baking it into our DNA, that was born out of we understood then that what made Prolifics tick as a company was our ability to be able to set a vision for the organizations we work with. So be it a technical vision or some sort of solution vision, but we kind of live and breathe by our ability to be able to set that vision. And we knew that if we weren't continually investing in innovation, we just wouldn't be able to sufficiently continue to be able to set the right vision, because the vision is changing, right? The vision for 2019, I'm sure we'll all agree, has kind of been torn up a little bit and thrown away, because the vision for 2020 is quite different for most organizations out there. Not dramatically, but I mean, there's definitely been some big changes to the vision. And really, we needed to have a way of continuing to assess and relook at the vision we were setting for our customers, relook at the technologies we were pitching, relooking at the various market conditions. But we had to do it in a way that wasn't just fits and starts. You couldn't do this. You couldn't say, "Well, everybody take a week off once a year and we'll innovate." That's not going to get the job done. We needed to bake it into our business as usual model so that we could continue to fine tune and drive out that vision for the organizations we work with.
Thanks, Greg. And I'd like to loop back to Sri as well, because the way a lot of people, including myself, may envision managed services, it's a set of folks that are on call that will do some level of break fix on one or many technologies. I think it's evolving a little bit more, where we're tying in a lot more automation into the process where possible, tying into DevOps as an example, which was one of our previous episodes. So Sri, tell us about that and how you've built out some of the automation services from the Innovation Center into the managed services lifecycle.
Absolutely. So from my perspective, there were two drivers that were making me want to push for this kind of change. Number one, Prolifics had to be competitive in the marketplace to win business, to stay in business. And for that, we needed to have a clear differentiator on, being competitive with the larger SIs and showing that there was real value that we could add. At the end of the day, there's a reason why customers choose to work with us, because we have the SME knowledge, because we have a certain amount of X factor that's different from the way that they, have been operating with the larger SIs. So we needed to keep that edge. So from that point of view, I wanted to find ways to contribute. So this was one of the ways that we could do it. Build a continuous improvement log, do little projects, deliver them as part of the service. The second thing was, in order to scale, we needed to automate. There was no other choice as well. So, it's not as if we could just keep throwing more people into the team to start delivering it, because then that wouldn't really be cost effective. It wouldn't have worked. So, that's the second driver. And then, as I was saying, the nature of people is such that if you have to do something manual over and over and over again, the consultants are not going to be, motivated by the day-to-day work that they do. So this is where, the kind of work that we've done in the Innovation Center around using tools like the CI/CD pipeline tools that we have, the automation tools from Red Hat that we use, all of these things are interesting ways to just get rid of all the boring stuff that my guys do, automate it, get it, to run on its own, so that they can then think about, okay, what other little plugin can I build, or what other monitoring solution can I build, or what other bot can I work on? These are things that they can then just go off and do their little projects. I mean, we are trying to get to that same innovation way of operating that the large global software companies do, right? You hear about these projects at Google. While we can't necessarily operate like them, but we're trying to get to that same mentality, I suppose.
Yeah.
So really, what you're saying is the more you automate, the more you innovate.
Yeah. And actually, so I'm glad you said that, Chris, because the comment I was going to make is the fact that, I mean, automation sometimes gets a bit of a bad rep because people think you're automating things. So automation by definition means you're automating something that somebody used to do manually, and therefore someone's going to be out of work. Well, actually, what we're finding is automation is essential to get you to that next level, because it's not about doing what you do today and automating it. It's about automating some of what you do today, because what you do what you need to do tomorrow is so next level that if you keep doing things your current way, you're just not going to get there. So if you, as organizations, need to level up, and which organization doesn't need to level up today, we found that this kind of focus on being able to, not just automate, but solve these problems in a way that really allow our teams to better focus on leveling up what we can do for the organizations we work with is really essential. Because again, the world moves on very quickly, and if you get too much stuck and comfortable with one way of doing things, you're going to very quickly become irrelevant.
And thank you, Greg. So we've talked about Innovation Center past. We've talked about Innovation Center present. Talk to me a little bit about how you see the future of the Innovation Center and the next steps in how this is going to evolve and how this is going to work and collaborate over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. So again, it's all about the Innovation Center is as much about the solutions that it produces as about being that innovation gym and helping us build those innovation muscles. And we want to move forward in both those things. So key is to keep innovating. We want to make sure we increase the amounts of co-creation that we're doing with organizations. Again, innovating in a silo is not as interesting as when you innovate with other teams, other organizations. So that's something we're specifically focusing on increasing over the next coming months, is increasing the amount of co-creation we do with other organizations. And we really want those organizations out there, and I'll say this to our audience, to bring us their challenges. So what are the really sticky challenges that they have? And we'd love to look at the ideas of building innovations that meet the needs of those challenges. The other thing I'll just say in closing, because I know we have to switch to Q&A, is the folks in our teams, and Sri mentioned this, and I think you probably did as well, Chris. Really, it's about the folks in our teams benefit from being involved in this innovation. They get to grow new skills. They keep on innovating. And I think this all builds a sharper, better version of our company. So again, IT is rich in those folks that enjoy creating. They want to build those cool solutions. They want to get satisfaction out of developing solutions that make a difference. And I think if we focus on those two things, both looking externally, increasing the amount of innovation we do with other organizations, but also focus internally and increase the enjoyment that our teams get out of innovating, then I think we're on the right path. So I know you probably have a load more questions, Chris, but I know I'm being told that we have to wrap and get to Q&A. So we're not quite wrapping yet. We're going to now start off and move to the Q&A part of the show. So as a reminder to everybody out there, submit your questions in the live chat. So that's either to the bottom or the right of the video feed, and we'll get those questions handed over to us. And again, if you have any questions or if you have any ideas for topics you'd like us to explore in season 2, then we'd love to hear those ideas as well. So I'm seeing a question here about how does the Innovation Center function in a virtual environment? Now, I guess we'll toss it around and let everybody answer some of these, but I'll start off by saying from the get-go, and this is pre-COVID, we always realized that we didn't want the Innovation Center to be a single place, a physical place. and we didn't want it to be a single team. We really wanted to bring together, all our geographies, all our teams, and then by definition, it kind of becomes this virtual environment. So it's not it's virtual in that and the way I think of it, because I don't like the term virtual there, I think of the Innovation Center as the focal point in our organization. It's this focal point within the company.
I would say that I think everybody would want to sign up to making a facility live in South Africa so that we can all go there and innovate together.
Absolutely. So maybe we have that 1 week a year innovation holiday when we come innovate. Absolutely, in the sunshine. So yeah, I mean, and actually I've got a slide where that kind of pictures the Innovation Center, and it shows this beautiful office with everything's shiny and gleaming, and everyone's sitting there working with these glass windows. And then basically the slide then says, well, no, if you think this is what an innovation center looks like, it's not, because really, as soon as you start, putting in those boundaries and building in the silos, then you're going contrary to what really makes innovation tick. So the big focus that I've had in the innovation center is around bringing down the silos. And again, you could use the term virtual environments, but I like to think of it as a focal point. So it's how we make sure that we bring together our teams across all the geographies. And I don't want to spend too long on this question, but I wanted to get one last thought in there, which is I like to think of the Innovation Center as always on. And it's always on in two senses. The first sense being that we never stop innovating. So once we've finished one lap, we just do the next lap. And this is an ongoing exercise with no end in sight. The second way that we're always on is I'd like to think that between our teams in India and Europe, UK, Canada, US, somewhere in the world, someone in Prolifics is always innovating. And that kind of light bulb that we switched on is always on.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add was, we have a real bias for action in the way that we do our innovation. We don't necessarily wait around for the perfect environment to go and create things. We go get a free AWS tier or Azure or build a VM on our local machines, whatever works. We go off and build something, and then we come to Greg to say, hey, we built this thing. And then Greg is able to then tell us, okay, brilliant. Now put this into Git, and then we'll create more out of it. We can, perfect it on the back of that. So that's the approach that's really worked.
Yeah. So there's another question that's come in, and Chris, I'm going to toss this one to you. It's really up your alley, Chris. What are the best pizza toppings for top-notch innovations? I don't know who put that question in, but
I would say one of our customers is based in the Caribbean, so it's got to be pineapple.
Absolutely.
I would say don't forget the beer. The beer is very important to the pizza.
That's good.
All right, so I've got a question here. If I had to pick one of my favorite kind of projects that's come out of the Innovation Center, what would that have been? Now, we've got 22 Innovation Center topics, little mini projects running right now. So imagine having a family of 22 kids and then being asked to choose one of them as your favorites. It would be pretty hard, but I will say, and again, 22 is across the entire gamut of Prolifics, all our different capabilities, from data to integration, automation, etc. You can see I'm padding for time because I don't want to answer the question. I'd say blockchain's a favorite. We've done some fantastic work around blockchain. And that's been exciting because blockchain technology, and we did a show on this a few weeks ago, but blockchain technology is pretty mature now, but blockchain use cases are really still less mature, and there's a lot of room for innovation. So that's been very exciting to get involved in. There's everybody's favorite AI machine learning. We've got some fantastic topics around AI machine learning and analytics. And we've done two things. Firstly, we've got some topics that are focused on the whole production line of AI machine learning. So it's called Data Science in a Box. And it really focuses on how do you use automation to deliver more, AI machine learning better with higher quality. That's been very, it's been great to see that develop. But also, we've got topics that have built AI machine learning into the solution. Let me give you an example. We've got another one of my favorites is we have a fantastic testing team at Prolifics, and they have kind of knocked it out of the park for many years now in terms of the accelerators and IP that they build. And they've got some new IP that they're building, which is kind of going under the code name Quality Fusion, which is not a product. So things in the Innovation Center aren't products that we sell. They're all kind of assets and accelerators that we use to help organizations. So this isn't a product punt. But what I love about that solution is that they've not only automated various forms of testing using open source technologies. Again, we can offer it without any licenses. But also they've built in AI machine learning to help us be smarter about where we focus our testing efforts. So that's baked into the offering. So it's baked into the solution. And I think it's really smart and clever usage of that AI machine learning technology. And there's a few different examples of that. Again, I don't want to pick specific kids out of the 22, but
I can pick one. Greg, I can tell you that I personally love the bots. You know, they each have a name, a personality. They do something very specific, and you know, the naming rights is a big thing that we work on, don't we? So. Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to give each of our digital bots, our digital workers, has a personality, a set of skills, and yeah, there's some good stuff that's come out of that area as well. Okay, so I think unfortunately, again, we could carry on this Q&A. We'd probably be well positioned to save some of it for season 2, gents. So if you don't mind coming back at some stage at season 2, I'm sure we can carry on discussing this topic. That's all that we have time for this week. So Chris and Sri, thanks both of you for joining us in the Sandbox today. Really enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you, Greg.
And then thanks to our audience. So it's been fantastic having you with us in the Sandbox. We've really loved this new way of engaging with you over the last 6 weeks. We are looking to continue the fun in season 2. That's in planning right now, due to kick off on the 1st of October. Let us know if you've got any ideas for topics you'd like us to explore. Please keep checking our website for more details as we unveil our next exciting set of shows. So if you didn't get that date, 1st of October, that's going to be our kickoff for season 2 of the Sandbox series. Until then, keep well, keep innovating, and we'll see you all in season 2.
Cheers all.